Self-removal squad, delete the Minecraft avatars of the Justice League Season 1 completely did not achieve anything and people hate it. But you know what's the best part? This thing is supposed to at least have, at the bare minimum, 2 more glorious seasons of complete failure.
With every passing moment, it becomes more and more clear that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is as good as dead. Like, there's just no recovering from this. If you look at the recent stats, it really highlights that the interest surrounding this game has all but completely disappeared, and it would take nothing short of a miracle or a complete...
Yeah, that's not happening, though, is it?
...overhaul that would take way too much time, money, manpower, and resources to invest into something that has lost so much spark and interest for this to be a viable live service in the long term. Besides seeing the recent reviews being mixed,
I'm completely fine with this, by the way, because if you make bad game, I don't think it's bad that bad game dies.
Compared to the more positive reviews we saw in the early days, there's the fact that the player base of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, just months after its launch, has sunk to an all-time low. And this is very apparent if you look at the Steam charts data. That
maybe they should try to make a TV show or an anime. Maybe that's gonna save them. Oh wait, what? They have already movies? Well, ain't that sad?
It is currently on display. I mean, look at this. There's a 24-hour peak of just 200 players as of the recording of this video. 146 played a day ago. We are now at a point where Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is in the low triple digits, which, I mean, is such a minuscule amount of players that it is going to impact the multiplayer aspect of this live service. People are going to have trouble finding other players to matchmake with to play the co-op aspect of this game, co-op being a huge emphasis of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And this is kind of a similar trend that we saw with Marvel's Avengers, which similarly dipped to these kinds of numbers, except...
I don't think the people left even care about multiplayer. As much as I understand, multiplayer is pretty bad in general in this stupid game. So, what does it matter? It doesn't matter, that's the thing. It just doesn't matter. The multiplayer part probably never even really did matter at all.
What's crazy is that Marvel's Avengers is currently a dead live service, as in it's been delisted from stores and you can still access it, but they're not updating the game. They're only maintaining the exoskeleton that remains, and the only players who can access this game at this point are those who have already purchased it, because again, the game has been delisted from stores and they're no longer making new copies for it. This dead live service had more players a day ago than Suicide Squad Kill the...
This is great. Their stats are actually better. Oh no, wait, this is the same. Oh, what the hell do you mean, Young?
Justice League did by a slight amount, but you know, it still says a lot.
Are you showing the wrong screen? Really? Man, that is disappointing. You should improve the quality. I am beyond disappointment.
A lot about the current state of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League and how little...
But it must have more players than this game at least, right?
Hope, unfortunately, there is for this game that once upon a time people looked forward to and then were skeptical about after they heard.
But bro, I looked accidentally at the 200 first. Imagine if a delisted game that you can't even buy anymore had 200 players while this has 140. That would be just something special. I wouldn't honestly be that surprised though.
The live service before all of their fears were realized when the game came out and had all the problems that people were kind of anticipating it would have. Hell, I mean, there was a point where those numbers dipped even lower. If you look at Windows Central's article, they noticed that...
Maybe they should have done this magical thing as not do ESG score and, you know, not make Harley Quinn a vomit-inducing thing on a stick. Maybe they should have done a little bit of that. That would have probably helped the game, just, you know, maybe that much, you know? Maybe actually have, you know, a woman that looks like a woman, not a DEI insert of disgustingness. Maybe Wonder Woman should have not looked like she was, half baked, taken out of the stove.
One point, the game was at sub 118 concurrent players, which bodes ill for the future of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which, yeah, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. And you can see right here, those stats fully represented in screenshots that highlight, Fallout 76 gained a huge boost from the show that recently came out. And of course, Helldivers 2 is thriving because it's just
wow, look at that. It still is maintaining a huge population. Now, admittedly, it's not 200k anymore, but man, is Helldivers still absolutely popping off.
Good-ass game, a fun-ass game that is reasonably priced, more than reasonably priced, and has great, consistent updates, and just feels like a cohesive, well-realized experience. And so, I mean, once you get to those kinds of concurrent player numbers, and I mean, I've covered so many live services that have gone through this cycle, it's dead. Like, there's no other way to put it. There's no sugarcoating it. And so what's going to happen with this game that is currently online only? You cannot play even the single player campaign that can be played solo without an internet connection, though it was stated by Rocksteady that they will be adding an offline mode at some point in the future. So for the sake of game preservation, at the very least, I hope they will add that patch before they...
So what's the point of adding an offline mode? Because if the game just goes away and gets an offline mode and no longer is sold, it's still gonna have the bugs, because Suicide Squad has an insane amount of completely game-breaking bugs that you can't progress, your rewards vanish, your quest progress doesn't save, and so on and so on. Like, this game is just basically unplayable.
I think inevitably kill this game off. I believe that the co-op aspect will just not be worth maintaining in the long term, so that part will go away pretty soon. Or they may keep the co-op component online for a while, but may not ultimately fulfill their planned roadmap for this game, which included new content and new characters like Mrs. Freeze, Deadshot, Solder, and Death.
Dude, I would love to see Mrs. Freeze. If you don't know who that is, she's hot. I want to see how they completely make her fat or something. I just want to see that. I want to see how ugly they can make Mrs. Freeze.
Deathstroke. At the very least, I hope that if they are unable to complete the roadmap, they just release all the characters at once, so people at least have that instead of letting that content go to waste.
They're gonna still nickel and dime. Even if there's 50 people left playing this game, they're gonna nickel and dime them until the last second, okay?
I mean, recently somebody like a hacker managed to data mine and play as Deathstroke before the character's intended release, so it's clear that the files are there for these characters. So
okay, the more characters, by the way, you add to a completely horrid experience like Suicide Squad, it just makes things worse. That's the most hilarious thing. You can't make a pile of shit not shit by sprinkling a little bit of gold dust on it, you know? You put on the sprinkles, you put on a little bit of perfume, guess what? Nothing really changes. It's still that, especially when you bite in, you know something's wrong. There's no saving it. Imagine, you add more characters to this game. What do? How is Deathstroke gonna magically traverse the environment? Is he gonna jump high like Samurai Jack? Is he gonna have a grappling hook? But that's already, but that is already Harley's thing. So how do you even implement these characters? You know, something like Mrs. Cold or Killer Frost or whatever, that would make sense. You know, you make ice things or whatnot. That could be cool. But nothing else is gonna work. It's just gonna get worse and worse and more creatively bankrupt over time. And that is what I wanted to see. I honestly wanted to see the complete creative bankruptness of this game.
So, you know, might as well at least get these characters out and just forget about the content that they had planned and just cut your losses, because the Season 1 content update and the Joker DLC felt like a...
Why do we have a twink Joker also? Can someone please explain to me? And why do we have an Australian in the game? Can someone please explain to me?
Pretty grim outlook for the kind of content updates we can expect. Season 1 was completely panned for how lackluster it was when it comes to new content additions. It was basically the same missions and a lot of grindy elements to unlock Joker. Adding insult to injury is that it was very apparent why Joker was put behind a grind wall. It's because there's an option to pay to unlock Joker from the outset.
Obviously. I mean, how else are you gonna make a live service work if you're not gonna give the, create a completely boring grind that no one wants to do and then just, add the option of just skipping it through money?
Which felt really scummy when the folks at Rocksteady promised that all characters would just be given out for free. And yes, you can unlock Joker for free, but the fact that you have to go through a big grind to unlock the new character instead of allowing you to grind as the new character from the outset, essentially strong-arming you into paying extra to get a more fun experience with the Joker character. Like, none of that's
A more fun experience. I think that's a bit stretching it.
stuff was well received at all. Joker itself feels very similar to play as all the other characters because they all shoot guns. He does have, a more unique mobility option and a unique ult, but overall Joker and every character in this game does not feel as distinct as it should. And then there's the lack of story content for Joker. They just drop the character in there, but they don't make substantial additions to the...
He doesn't even talk to Harley Quinn. It's crazy. It's just beautiful.
story and campaign elements. They recycle the Green Lantern boss fight for the final battle of the Season 1 content release. It's all just very disappointing and lackluster, and it feels like a pretty good indicator of what we could expect in the future. And if this is...
I mean, I expected something roughly along those lines for Season 1. You make a game this bad, this clearly unloved, this clearly much of a cash grab, and you expect them to ever try and implementing something new? Hell no, that's not happening.
is kind of where the game's headed in the long term, then I cannot imagine interest being sparked for this game. I can't imagine this game being rejuvenated. But in terms of people want to just revisit the campaign, that does have some fun moments here and there. That is definitely a priority that should be kind of realized before the game is killed off. I suspect that it will go down the same route as Marvel's Avengers, where it was delisted from stores, but people who purchase the game will still have access to online functionalities and basic maintenance. But in the long term, when they decide to shut down servers, that's when the question of what will happen to these games kind of becomes relevant, especially after people witnessed what happened with The Crew 1, which is a game that has not only been delisted and decommissioned, but also Ubisoft has decided to strip licenses for this game, and this is also an online-only game that...
That's the funniest part. They're even stripping your licenses. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. You gotta love it. But it is Ubisoft at the end of the day, okay? They are one of the worst companies that you can find on the gaming market nowadays.
Does have a campaign that you could technically play single player.
They made Skull and Bones. That game probably has maybe 20 players currently playing. There's a reason they never showed us the numbers for how many people actually play the game.
If they decided to make this an offline game or take away the online mandate, but Ubisoft instead just decided to nuke the game from existence and essentially steal this game from people's library, steal a product that people spent money on that Ubisoft can technically legally do because of their end user license agreement and because current laws don't protect customers from this kind of situation. But from just a moral perspective, it just obviously...
It's sad. It's wrong. No one likes it. But it happens.
Doesn't feel good when somebody does the equivalent of sneaking into your house and stealing your copy of a video game, just done so much more subtly and digitally and instantly due to the digital nature of these products. It's worth noting that with Marvel's Avengers, you do need internet access to start the single player component. It's similar to what Ubisoft did with Avatar Frontiers of Pandora and what they will be doing with Star Wars Outlaws, where you do need an initial internet connection that downloads...
Man, who even is playing Frontiers of Pandora? That game was absolutely horrible.
A certain patch that will allow you to access the single player component and play that offline after the fact.
I can't wait for Star Wars Outlaws though. It's gonna be fantastic. It is gonna be the most hilarious woke thing you have seen in quite a while.
Unless they patch this requirement out, what this means is that way in the future, if servers are shut down and this patch is no longer downloadable, you won't be able to start the single player component of these games. If ways down the line the game is uninstalled and you decide to just revisit it for whatever reason, even physical copies won't be able to alleviate this situation. And with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, the situation's even worse because it requires a persistent online connection to continue playing even the single player component of the game. It's not just access.
Okay, can we stop pretending the internet is like this super rare commodity nowadays? Having a persistent online internet connection has not been a problem for roughly 10 years, honestly. For the absolute super majority of the world. Yeah, sure, you can say maybe in Africa they don't have internet in a couple of places, but they also don't have food, and arguably that is a little bit more important than playing this game offline after the servers shut down. So, you know, I would say get your priorities honestly straight in this situation.
The internet once, download a patch and you can play it offline. It's, you gotta maintain an internet connection, and if that goes away, if you're in the middle of a single player session, you'll be booted out of the game and you lose access to the game. They better patch that aspect out before they decide to kill this game off and allow people to, at the very least, go.
Young, please, again, we're not in China. They're not. People have access to the internet, and it's not magically going to get cut down because you posted a bad thing on Twitter, and now the government needs to rectify the situation before the party in power looks bad. Okay, it's not the same. Okay, it's just not the same, Yongi. Anyway,
tuned here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time.
Whoa!
Young Yeah.
Young out. Ah, love it. Anyway, this was Squizzer Sins In. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.